You are standing in front of your closet right now, or you were this morning. You stared at it for 30 seconds, picked something, and walked out. You did not think about it. But the real reason you own that closet at all is far stranger than fashion, far older than fabric, and has almost nothing to do with keeping warm. It starts with a parasite. Your body is home to two species of louse. One lives in your hair, the other lives in your clothes. They are close relatives, but they are not the same species. And that tiny biological difference cracked open one of the biggest mysteries in human prehistory. Because to evolve into a separate species, the clothing louse needed one thing first. It needed clothes to live in. Scientists ran the genetic clock backward and landed on a date, somewhere between 83,000 and 170,000 years ago. That is when humans started wearing something. Not because of ice, not because of shame, because of something far more fundamental. Here is what most people get wrong. Early humans did not live in the Arctic. They lived in Africa. So why would a species that evolved in warmth need to cover itself? The answer is not temperature the way you imagine it. It is temperature variation. The difference between noon and midnight on the African savanna can be 30 degrees. Your naked body, losing heat through the night, can become dangerously cold even in what feels like a warm climate. A single animal hide draped over a sleeping body can mean the difference between waking up and not waking up. Anthropologist Ian Gilligan spent decades studying prehistoric clothing and draws a clear line between simple thermal draping and what came next. Because 40,000 to 50,000 years ago, something shifted. Humans began producing needles, bone needles, ivory needles, so fine they could thread sinew through a hole no wider than a match head. These are not tools for draping. These are tools for fitting. And fitting means something very different from warmth. Researcher Olga Soffer, an archaeologist at the University of Illinois, spent years studying small carved figurines found across Europe and Russia. Everyone had stared at them for a century and focused on the bodies. Soffer looked at what was on the bodies: bands, straps, woven patterns carved around the hips, the chest, the wrists. These are not decorations. These are representations of textiles, of clothing designed to be seen. And they date to around 26,000 years ago. Your ancestors were not just wearing hides. They were weaving. They were crafting. They were making things to signal something. And that is the turn. That is the moment clothing stopped being purely functional and became something else entirely. Think about what wearing something signals to the people around you. It says, I have resources. It says, I have skill. It says, I belong to this group and not that one. Evolutionary biologist Joseph Henrich has written about how human culture accelerates biological fitness. Clothing, in his framework, is a tool for social communication. And for a species that survives in cooperative groups, social communication is not a luxury. It is a survival mechanism as powerful as fire. There is a study that makes this almost uncomfortable. Researchers showed people photographs of strangers in different clothing and asked them to make rapid judgments: intelligence, trustworthiness, economic status, social belonging. The judgments happened in under 1 second, and they were strikingly consistent. Your brain does not see clothing. It reads clothing. It processes it like language, decoded before conscious thought even gets involved. That is not a modern behavior. That is an ancient one. But go back even further. Before the needles, before the woven bands, there is something your body still carries today. Humans are the only great apes with almost no body hair. Chimpanzees, gorillas, orangutans, all covered. You, mostly bare. Paleoanthropologist Nina Jablonski has argued this was tied to endurance hunting. Hair traps heat. Sweat glands, which humans have in extraordinary numbers, cool the body through evaporation. Bare skin plus sweat glands is a remarkably efficient heat management system. But bare skin in equatorial sun means dangerous UV exposure. The body's answer was melanin. Darker pigmentation absorbing UV before it damaged DNA. Early humans were dark-skinned, not culturally, but biologically, as a direct result of being hairless under a fierce equatorial sun. Then some of those humans moved north, into Europe and Central Asia, into weaker sun, longer winters, far less UV. In those environments, darker skin created a new problem. Vitamin D is synthesized through UV exposure in the skin. Too little sun plus too much melanin means deficiency, weakened bones, compromised immune function. So skin lightened over generations. And as populations moved into cold, dark climates, they covered more of their bodies, which changed UV exposure again. The biology and the technology were shaping each other at the same time, pushing and pulling across thousands of years. Richard Wrangham, the primatologist at Harvard, has written about how fire expanded the human body's range into environments it was not biologically equipped to survive. Clothing did something parallel. It was a prosthetic, an extension of a hairless body into climates that body could never have reached alone. Without it, vast portions of the earth would have been permanently off limits to your species, and the needle, when it came, changed everything again. Because a fitted garment is not just warmer than a draped hide, it is a statement. It says, someone made this. Someone shaped this around a specific body. Someone spent hours on something invisible, hidden inside the seams, and the result is readable to every person who looks at you. The labor is encoded in the object, and humans read that encoding the same way they read a face, instantly, without deciding to. This morning, you stood in front of your closet. You made a choice. You thought you were choosing for comfort, or for the day ahead, or for how you wanted to feel. But underneath all of that, something much older was running. A process that began before language, before agriculture, before anything you would recognize as civilization. You were signaling. You were managing your temperature. You were extending the biological limits of a hairless primate body into a world it was not quite built for. The clothing you put on today is 170,000 years in the making, and the louse in the seam, if there were one, would be older than your entire civilization. Do like and subscribe for more videos.